No, it's the idea.
The first item. Thank you. And the first item is public comment. We have two members of the public.
Never mind. Yeah, I can. Excuse me. Pardon.
Go ahead.
You want to join?
I got her back.
No, he's supposed to.
Right.
Back her
He's too lazy to get up.
Yes.
Okay. From here. Noreen Moore. And for today, because the group that has been spearheading for affordable senior houses does need a place to land. And we do not wish to create our own 501(c)(3), nor should we, because we wouldn't want to be in your lane. And your lane has the same mission that our lane has. So I know your staff is swapped. I know that you've got a while yet to get your new person, to get, planted and all that. And my group plans to stay together. So we don't want to be a burden to you. But, it just seems strange. I mean, if we went out and did get our own 501, it would be like, well, what's your relationship to the housing authority? I know it confused people. And I think it's best that we would be, but we would take care of one side. It's almost like we would be your staff, which can't really boss me around too much. But we have not even getting any laughter today. We are. Thank you. I heard you over there. So that's what this is about, is to open that dialogue with you all about how do we make it work so that we benefit, you don't lose much at all in terms of your staffing and your demands. That's not why we are applying. We're applying because we have the masthead that we should be under. So that's all I have to say right now. Anything else? Well, just so you know, there's been no new senior housing in this community in 36 years. The last thing built was Selby, and that was in 1990. And that is while the population of seniors above 65 in this community is above 25%. So it's really a very undermet and abandoned kind of group. And I went through every nonprofit that could relate to housing for seniors 5 years ago, when I got the Northwest Colorado Council of Governments data on it of what we needed. And it just didn't gain traction with anybody then. So just so you know, you might ask me privately, okay, what about this group? What about that group? You do need to know that SOAR and Northwest Colorado Housing, Colorado Health does not do housing. So there really is only one place that has done housing, and that's the Selby group. And they don't wish to do this. And that was as of quite a few years ago. So that's why we're knocking on your door. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. And please, somebody call me and let's start discussing. Okay? Yes. Can I see some yeses? Thank you.
I just want to jump in and add on to that, is that he has so often thought that the seniors from community are retired, well, the people who live here, but we have a large number of our workforce who have been in resort, low paid jobs that are retiring, that do not have a place to live and do not have a place to go. So I think if our community does not get ahead of this, we're going to have a huge problem on it. So I appreciate Noreen coming and this partnership.
All right. Jim, did you want to comment?
I'm here to support Noreen.
Oh, he's bagging out.
Oh,
He's part of our.
I am one of two men that sits with probably 10 or 11 ladies on the senior housing committee.
You.
Needless to say, Paul and I don't get many words in
You certainly do.
unless we scream and fight.
No.
We've done well. We've progressed with some of the thoughts and ideas and working with the city too on sites and type of housing that we would be looking at. But I think that if you went down and looked at the people involved in our group, there are people that have been very involved in helping building this community. So when we talk about senior housing, it's not people who are there begging, knocking at the door. They're people who have worked very hard in this community, and we've got some good ideas. So, yeah, we'd like to have you embrace us in your group and help us work through this.
And we're fun. There are two different segments of the market. And the market is, you do have people that would have money once they sold their home. And they do not need to really qualify for affordable in that way because of their assets. And then you have people like myself who've worked in service industry for 50 years in this county and have participated in building the infrastructure of things that we all value and have and helps to create this county or the city with their amenities, library, hospital. You sometimes may forget that the hospital was volunteer based, as is the library and many, many other things before there was more money that came into the community.
All right, thank you very much. Any other public comment? Now we'll move to board member. And I'd like to start out and congratulate Dan. He had a baby girl last night, or I should say his wife had the baby girl. So when you see him, congratulate him, and the baby girl and mother are fine, so.
He's not
Okay.
participating today.
Pardon?
He's not participating today.
No. Okay. No, he's been up all night, according to the email.
And what's the baby's name?
He didn't. I don't know that they've named it yet. All right, any other public comment? Catherine?
Yeah, I just have a comment, and I hope Shannon might make the same comment, but Northwest Colorado Health next Monday is doing, their workshop on poverty. And I would just like to encourage any board members who have not participated in this to do it. It's like from 9 to 2 or something on Monday, is that right, Shannon?
Exactly.
And what it actually is, it's a real life simulation of how people who are very low income, what they have to go through, what they have to deal with. I don't know if Dave's online, but Dave Barnes did it last year. It's very, very powerful, but it gives you a really reminder of how terribly hard it is if you're lower income. So I know it's like 4 hours, but if anyone has time to do it, I really encourage you. It's very impactful and it reminds us why we're here. Is that we also, we work for, we definitely go all the way from the low income to the higher workforce, but taking care of our vulnerable is a key priority, and it's really hard, both, to find ways to do it, to find housing, but also to be in that situation. So if it's okay, Elliot, I'll send, or Shannon or I can send the invite email out, if you could share it with the board.
Yep.
If that would be okay, just get it out this weekend, and I encourage anyone who could find time to do it to participate.
I've participated in that, and
Hey, Steve.
it's interactive, and you'll get to play certain roles, so it's also very enlightening.
Thank you for your.
Some of the roles you play in that. It's very worthwhile.
Thank you, Stevie. I really, I appreciate, with your leadership and.
All right, any other board comment? Yes,
I'll echo that. I did it with Councilor Barnes and it was so eye-opening, very well done, very well. So yes, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, I have two things. Number one, on baby news, I would like to let this group know that I am also with child. I am due in January, so I'm here, but
I'm here.
I'll take some time, later. I always come back. And then the real order of business that I had. So, I believe I read it in the property management team meeting minutes, but there was mention of vacancies at several of the properties and that the wait lists had been exhausted. And I guess I was just curious if maybe at a future meeting, we could get some more data on that. And also just curious, like, if there's any other communications that we should be putting out, just to let the community know that there is availability in some of our properties. And then we have a real estate team meeting tomorrow, and one of the things I plan to bring up just to ask Araceli on is like, what has the volume of housing navigation calls been lately? I feel like it's just an interesting data point if we're seeing vacancies. And like I've been seeing there's like a sandwich board sign at those apartments right behind Elk River Guns, for, like advertising that they have availability there. And as long as I've lived in Steamboat, I've never seen them advertising for that. So I'd just like to understand that more.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can give you a little bit of information from our call last month. The majority of the people are just leaving Steamboat. There's been a couple of them that have been able to purchase, homes in Craig or Hayden Oak Creek. They are, doing everything they can to kind of ramp up their marketing and let people know about these opportunities. It's loaded into our interactive housing guide on our website. And then also Sarah's been doing a good job of kind of as people call looking for housing, steering them to Mission Rock's website and also to our interactive housing guide. So yeah, I mean, it's a little I wouldn't say concerning, but given that those properties have always had full occupancy and they've gone through their wait list. I think, they are kind of working through how to market that and how to get the word out that they have some additional, or that they have housing that's available. So, but yeah, happy to kind of dig into that a little bit more, on our monthly call with OPG and Mission Rock later this month.
And I want to echo what Michael said on this, but we really don't have deep dive even once a year. We mentioned it before, we said at a time, an actual summary of how our properties are doing. And so I think last time I looked at Sunlight, they had some market rate vacancies, although the market rents are extraordinarily high. But I'm wondering on that call, Elliot, and also, I saw it mentioned also in the property management minutes, is, the AMI numbers are so skewered. So when the AMI, because of all the non-wage, rent or non-wage income goes up like this, rents go up like this, wages are like this. So I wonder if also one of the problems is are the rents starting to get higher than what people can afford, and maybe with the more, I guess I'll say for lack of better words, steamboat rents that were created at Riverside, Riverview. I wonder if one of the problems is that AMI rents are just getting to cost burden the people living there. This is a question, another metric to look at.
Yeah. Yeah, while you're mentioning that, the other thing that I recall from the conversation is they are doing, like specials like, 1 month free, things like that. And then the other thing that came out of the conversation is OPG's kind of seeing this across their whole portfolio. They're also seeing this in Denver, their front range properties. So it appears to be a trend, not only here in Steamboat, but across their other properties in their portfolio.
But I do think it's important, like, just like we did with the Cottonwoods, like, is this a pricing problem? Is this a product problem? Did people just leave?
Right.
And really try to understand that as it relates to future decisions about products and policy.
And also just the fact, I haven't seen any advertising 1 month free, not so in the market, but. If they're actually advertising that, normally you see stuff like that. Have you seen it, Shannon?
Well, one of the things they said, Mission Rock approached them about what their marketing budget is, and OPG's response was, well, we don't have a marketing budget because we've never had this problem. So I think, they're just kind of figuring it out on the fly, is the sense I get.
Even if we put that information in our newsletter.
Right.
And Lorraine does a great job doing that in our social media. So there's space available right now going into the season. That's lower as affordable, we should be helping blast that out.
I can say from experience that we are reaching out to those people on wages. And a nice piano teacher moved from a very expensive 1-bedroom to a 3-bedroom in Alpine. So there is activity.
So if we can help get the word out. So I think there was like, what, 11 openings or something for this week?
I don't remember the number.
All right, any other board comments? Then we'll do consent agenda. Consent agenda is minutes, write-offs, none, check register, and financial statements. Do we have any questions on the consent agenda? If not, I'll call and entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Lou. Do I have a second?
A second.
Said
Michael.
Michael Ann. Motion by Lou, a second by Michael Ann. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Right, now we're down to staff reports. Elliot.
Right, good afternoon, everyone. Just some kind of updates for the board here of some projects and things we have in motion. So I'll start off with Cottonwoods. Our sales team ran the lottery on July 30th for the units that the board kind of reallocate with some of the STR money and the other money that we had kind of earmarked for missions. We had a pretty successful lottery. Actually, I have some updated numbers for you on that. We now have 12 of the redesignated units under contract. So that's an improvement from +1 from my update on Friday. So we were left with 3 unallocated units. As of this morning, we also got 2 more units under contract. So in total, we're looking at 13 unallocated units at the Cottonwoods. So 73 of the 86 are either closed or under contract. We have still 51 units that have closed. And anyway, it seems like the majority of the interest is coming from like word of mouth and people that are visiting the people that are living there at Cottonwoods. And just seeing kind of the building, the finishes, those types of things. So there's been some really positive momentum in that direction. We currently, based on our closings as of last week, we have 1.9 million left to pay off our Alpine Bank construction loan. And so, with the additional closings or the additional units we have under contract, we're looking to kind of pay that off here in the next 5 to 6 closings. So anyway, some good positive news there. And then our real estate team is having their monthly meeting tomorrow. If anyone wants to join, that's from 12:30 to 2. If you'd like to join us at the real estate meeting. Next, we have our home-based program that we're working with the city on. We continue to see some strong interest in that. I also have some updated information from my report. We have our first closing utilizing those program funds tomorrow. And we have 4 other households that are currently under contract that are be utilizing some of those home-based funds. We still have 8 working through the application. 16 approval letters have been sent. And pretty much all of the folks that are moving forward with this program are using the deed restriction number 1, which comes with the employment requirement here in Steamboat and Route County. So some really good kind of interest in that program and keeping Alyssa busy reviewing applications and issuing qualification letters. So that's all positive news. On the executive director search, we had our stakeholder engagement meeting with Bridge Partners last week. That's with staff and YVHA board members. They also provided us with kind of the surveys and the stakeholder engagement information that they've been collecting over the last couple months. A lot of this comes from the staff and board surveys that went out earlier this year. The current executive director job description. And then from that, Bridge Partners sent us the final draft position description, basically a job description on Friday. We met with Bridge Partners on Tuesday morning to review that as a search committee. I had another follow-up call with Janet, the lady that's heading our search this morning, taking in edits from the committee and reviewing those. So we're getting close to finalizing that job description. We are still looking on track to launch this search next week. And so we're keeping with the schedule that's been outlaid by Bridge Partners. And everything is kind of moving forward at a good pace with that. The next item is communication. Lorraine has launched a new YVHA blog, which focused on a couple of big wins for our policy team that they had some input on. Just a note of encouragement. If you'd like to contribute, I know John Speezy has kind of written a piece about his experience growing up here in Steamboat and buying his first property. I think that's going to be our next entry in the blog. But if anyone on the board would like to contribute to that, kind of speak a little bit about your housing experience in Steamboat or anything else that you'd like to kind of provide some thoughts on, please reach out to her. She's also been busy working with the Slate Creek Steering Committee communications team. They're working through the plans for an external Slate Creek website that will be launching soon. And recently there was an op-ed from all the members of the steering committee that went out last week, and Steamboat Radio picked that up and ran a piece on that op-ed. Our monthly newsletter is still doing very well. We have over 2,800 subscribers with an average open rate of 32%. If you haven't had a chance to sign up for our newsletter, please do, for any new board members that aren't receiving that. And then we're still receiving good engagement and from our Instagram and our Facebook social media sites. So again, Lorraine's doing a great job kind of keeping folks engaged and using those platforms to get our message out and what we have going on in the community. Cottonwood's mail update. So found out on Tuesday that mail has actually been set up now and is being delivered to the Cottonwoods. So we've been trying to get that going since late March, early April. And the interim postmaster has really helped with kind of pushing that along for us. Just a quick update. We had been engaging with the owners and also Steamboat Association management, just letting them know of issues and what we've been doing on our end to try to get mail set up. And so we were successful and received notification earlier this week that mail's being delivered there to the residents of and owners at Cottonwood. Our Hillside Village project, we received our initial kind of construction budget from ICOTA the week of the 27th. We've had a couple weeks to go through that budget. Had some calls with them to review the scope, some clarifications and some other questions. Currently that budget landed about $7 million for the rehab. We've been, based on these last 2 weeks and some of the calls, there's been some adds to that budget. So we're up to about 7.7 million right now, and continue to work through and refine that. I think once Mark's back from vacation, we'll also spend some time kind of sitting down with him and going through that as well, get his input. And then we've been also working with our tax credit team, and they've been looking at modeling out a 9% deal. And it initially kind of looks like it's a viable option for us to pursue. So the deadline there for submitting an LOI is early December, and then the application deadline is early February for that. And we'll be bringing that project back to the development team later this month, and then probably back to the board here in the coming months to revisit that and talk a little bit more about Hillside Village and some of the stuff we've been able to find out there. And then finally, Whitehaven Water and Sewer, we resubmitted our STR request to the city last month. They responded, had some questions for us, which we were able to answer. And currently we're looking at the end of August, Monday, August 31st, to have our ad hoc committee meeting with them. With the resubmitted request, we did include additional money for upgrading the electrical there at Whitehaven. And our team internally has been working on our presentation for the ad hoc committee. And so this will be an agenda item for September for our board meeting. So we'll provide the board with some additional information on that, and then I'll continue to keep the board updated on that project in my weekly updates. So those are a few things I have. Oh, the last thing I have, sorry, is the farmers market. I've sent out. I've spoke about this in my weekly directors updates about trying to get us more engaged and involved in that. We were looking at doing something in these last few weeks of August, and actually 2 of the 4 weeks in September. We had discussed doing this with the city since there's currently no more booths available. And after kind of talking that through a little bit, the city's in the booth from 9 a.m. till 12 p.m. It's currently, I think, 2 city councilors and a staff, maybe Tom. So that booth is going to be pretty packed if we're all there from 9 to 12. And so just wanted to bring up, we've pushed out our time slot for this week. And I just wanted to talk to the board. I think, Steve, you have some thoughts on this as well about, getting us there, making sure we have everything kind of organized for that, making sure we're able to notice it via social media, our newsletter, our website, so people know that we're at the farmers market. In talking with Steve, we also talked about potentially doing something kind of later in the afternoon after they leave at 12, so 12 to 2. So I just wanted to kind of open that up to the board here. And Steve, if you have any other comments on that, and just talking a little bit about getting us out there in the public and engaging with folks at the farmers.
I think we're gonna check this weekend and check and see what we have right now are 2 of those like high tops over there in the corner. So we have very limited space to put stuff on right now, and we have no chairs. We just stand now because we find it to be much more inviting instead of having just a table. So if we had you there while we're there, I think we probably need to stagger that a little bit. If we're going to be there 9 to 12, maybe you guys can be there like 11 or something, and stagger it a little bit when it's not so potentially crowded. Or what we're going to look at Saturday is maybe we could put a small table on the side of our booth where you guys could put some kind of overhang, banner or something that said Housing Authority. Because right now, when you walk up, it has a big city council sign with questions, concerns, come on over and all that. Just to draw attention that you have a piece of that, but it's kind of, separate, if you will, in the same booth, but maybe we can make it work that way. So we're going to look at that this weekend and see if we can figure something out. But I think it's a great idea to have the Housing Authority there. I think in the future, we have a table that's optional for community, different community organizations to get in on that maybe early and reserve it for a few times next season. But I think we can work something out this year. I just want to make sure that when people come over, they see city council, and then if there's a Housing Authority, it's kind of, okay, if I want to talk about housing, I'll move over here and talk about housing with this group. So just want to kind of firm that up a bit.
So Elliot, Lisa said all the community, they have those, like Steve said, they have that one big tent that community members share those are results already?
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
checked it the other day and Lisa said it's filled, but it's dynamic. If somebody drops out, you just gotta be there to fill it in.
I will say most of the locals come in the morning, so I don't really know if
Yeah.
Maggie would be that impactful.
Yeah, I think being there with the city kind of demonstrates the collaboration that we've been
Yeah.
talking about. So if we can make that happen, and maybe
We're
we
gonna
have
look at playing
one
around with
person there or something.
it, see if we can. But I would suggest the maximum we would want from the guys would be 2.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and thanks for all the board members who've reached out, expressed their availability and willingness to kind of participate and be there. So I've got like a spreadsheet, I'm tracking all that. So anyway, we'll see how it goes this weekend. And
Hopefully doing something a week from Saturday.
yeah, okay. All right, that's all I have for my updates.
I did have a question. First, thanks to all the steering committee for your great work and on the search committee for the ED. It's very important. And one of the critical things is we really, I think we'll all agree, you know, it's critical that we set up whoever we hire to be incredibly successful. I think that's really important. But one thing I just wanted to ask on, we haven't really had a discussion as a board. I think you mentioned a survey, but we've had so many surveys. But we, you know, I appreciate that the Bridges partners met with a couple board members. Thank you guys. But we as a board have not really had a discussion as to what our priorities are and what we want in our new ED. And we've got a big board. I mean, I really think it's important, it's my opinion, that we have consensus, both what our priorities are for a new executive director and what the job description is before we launch the search. Because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, folks, but we as a board have not discussed this. And I hope we all have consensus, but we don't know. And the last thing we want to have happen is for us to hire someone and us to have different expectations about what the person's talents, responsibilities, priorities are. So I just like to toss that out. That I think it's important. We have some broader board input and consensus before we move forward. And I recognize that this has taken a very long time. I mean, someone asked me, I was like, what's going on with the new ED search? Jason, you know, you guys, you know, made that agreement in March. And it has taken a long time for whatever reason, but we have to get this right. And I just think it's important that we have board consensus and discussion to make sure we all agree, the majority agree on the new ED's, you know, job description, priorities, whatever. So just want to toss that out.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else agrees.
Oh, I'll follow up on that. I think 2 things. One, I'd like to see the job description and whatever draft you have, I think distributing that would be a good idea.
So I'm gonna send that out tomorrow with my board update.
Okay.
And then I'm also gonna send out the constituent feedback from discussions with the search committee, the board members and the staff members, and what all was provided to Bridge Partners. So everyone will be able to see that tomorrow.
See that or input or have input on it. Is this something you're saying?
If there's something that you want to provide input on, feel free to respond and I'll add that. I'll provide that to Bridge Partners.
Yeah. And my understanding on the participation, I think 50% of the board participated.
In the survey.
No, in talking to
And the constituent.
Janet. So I'm assuming that's a pretty broad spectrum of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, the constituent feedback form, I mean, it's very consistent with the themes of what's the expectations are and what people are looking for in the new executive director. And that recommendation came from Bridge Partners after reviewing surveys and all the information that we provided them. And, you know, the comment is that, you know, we're kind of providing them with more information than they typically get in these executive searches that they do. So, you know, that was their recommendation, was to just talk to 3 board members in addition to what feedback they had gotten from the surveys and also from meeting with the executive director search committee.
All right, I say we need to get this right. Are they concerned at all that we might have a hard time finding a good candidate without having guaranteed funding beyond next year? Did you ask that question?
Um, no.
We did talk about the proper way to position the kind of evolution of the board. The fact that there is a mill levy, we consider, and some of the, like, we need to be transparent about the dynamics of what this person would be stepping into, so. We've had robust discussions about what the right balance of including that in the job description, but I think that's benefit of having Bridge is that a lot of, at the initial screening level is that they will have, like, those conversations are better face to face with the person. Okay. But it's not like it's hidden at all by any means, and it's very.
So we'll get the job description sent to us and what's the timing that we need to get comments out since we're apparently going to the search next week. I just say I'm concerned about this. I've never been on a board where we haven't had a discussion about a new job description when we're hiring a new ED. This just seems board 101 to me that we just need to be in consensus. So I just encourage everyone, I mean, to read, because usually there's a robust discussion, particularly after your previous ED has left. I mean, it's critical to get this right for the new person to succeed. So we really need to do everything we can to make sure we agree on what we want in a new ED before we hire the person, or that person's not going to be successful.
Well, I mean, you'll also see that once they bring all the candidates before us. I mean, this isn't, there'll be like a general round of candidates that are brought to us. And that'll be all shared with the board, and there'll be input there to narrow that down to, they're saying 3 to 4 preferred candidates. And then from there, essentially there's, call it a meet and greet. Well, where they will invite them to come to town and meet with the board, meet with community members, meet with staff, and then kind of make an informed decision on those final candidates. Which one do we want to move forward with?
I'm just curious, Elliot, what kind of information was on the survey, what was given to them from the survey?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was the one that Lorraine sent out, and every board member participated in it. So it had traits and attributes. It had some open-ended question or open-ended answers where people could kind of fill in additional thoughts and comments. So that's what, we provided Bridge Partners with.
Okay, so that's something everybody did participate in.
Yes.
Any other staff comments?
We will move along to the review and approval of the revised Prop 123 down payment assistance guidelines.
Yeah, so I'm going to take this one. We need a board vote on this. As you know, we've been working with the Impact Development Fund, which administers our down payment assistance program. And we need to revise our Proposition 123 down payment assistance guidelines to comply with the recent statutory changes and new Division of Housing Programming guidelines. So the revisions are to increase the maximum front end debt to income ratio up to 38%. Number 2, it requires a spending down of liquid assets above $50,000. And then number 3, to clarify that the income of a non-occupant cosigner does not count towards the household AMI calculations. Our grant agreement with the state requires board approval of our Prop 123 down payment assistance guidelines. And then following our approval and the state approval, the IDF can begin underwriting loans based on the revised guidelines. In total, we've now received over $1 million from the Colorado Division of Housing for down payment assistance. And from this funding, we've already made 16 down payment assistant loans to home buyers, most of those who have purchased at the Cottonwoods.
How large on the average do you think those down payment assistance were, grants were?
20,000.
Yeah, most of them have.
20,000,
20,000?
yes.
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry,
that's,
what was your question? No, I couldn't.
what was the average value of that?
Oh, the average value.
The maximum loan amount is 20,000 and the minimum is $5,000.
All right, any other questions about the down payment assistance guideline change?
The liquid asset caveat in there, that's from the Division of Housing's new program guidelines.
Yes.
That's completely new to everything, right?
Mhm.
Which does include non-tax preferred retirement accounts and stocks and bonds. So,
That,
So.
I mean, if I'm reading this right.
Yes.
What's not considered as tax preferred retirement accounts, so Roth IRAs, but traditional IRAs and any stocks and bonds.
And so in our stakeholdering with the state, we have pushed back on this.
Yeah.
And there is an exception, or there's a process for someone to basically appeal it, but it was added into the Prop 123 statute.
yeah,
It's beyond idiotic, but.
it says here, liquid assets are those readily convertible to cash, including but not limited to savings, checking, certificates of deposit, stocks and bonds. Tax preferred retirement accounts such as college saving plans, health saving accounts are not considered liquid assets.
We're still forcing possibly people to create a taxable event of themselves in order to access this program, which I'm not too cool with, but this is all part of the 123 realm, the infinite wisdom of Denver.
Emily, is it statute or rules?
Let me I'll confirm that quickly,
I don't,
I just wanted to make sure that,
because I didn't see it in the Prop 123.
I didn't see it in the bill. I think this is a rule. I don't.
Oh, actually, okay, Elizabeth just confirmed it's in the guidelines, it's not statute.
So this is not statute then. This is in the rules, so,
And we added language allowing for a waiver.
yeah, but still, this is something if that's in there, we have to do it, but we need to talk to Dylan and me, or Senator Roberts and Republicans about this, because, so clarify that again, read that again, Cole. So basically, if someone had a regular retirement account, like an IRA, they couldn't do it? Is that what you said, Cole?
well, it says tax preferred retirement accounts are not considered liquid assets, but there's non-tax preferred retirement accounts that people are in that are
Most definitely, yeah.
readily accessible. Plus any stock or bond holdings, so your Schwab account, let's say it's at 60 grand and you're considering that for some kind of, in your retirement portfolio, and you have to cause a $10,000 taxable event to yourself.
I agree 100%, Cole, because we want people to be able to thrive, not to survive. Yeah, let's put this on the policy team agenda and look at this, because, when you said that, I was like, it was not in legislation, this is a rule. I don't think we have a choice today because it's in the guidelines we have.
But yeah, I just asked for more clarification if that was something we could have, but if we push back on it and they force us to include it, we'll deal with it. Shucks.
Yeah, but we should talk to our representatives about this.
So Catherine, you'll take that on?
With policy, we'll look at that again.
All right, thank you.
And this is not retroactive to any existing DPA loans?
Correct.
Okay, good.
All right, any other questions about this item? Motion to approve the revised down payment assistance guidelines.
Motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Cole. I have a motion by Lou and a second by Cole. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Right, the next item is an update of the first quarter financial statements.
All right, I'll start on page 32. Halfway through the year, that's the financials you approved in consent. One more down, please. I'll start with some notes just to the first half of 2026. This was compiled by Sandy, reviewed by myself. It's a good overview without getting too much into the weeds, and we'll discuss some of the cash position as it stands currently. Overall, the 2026 results had a lot of unknown expenses spring up in the form of supplemental budgets. From a dollar amount, it's the most supplemental budgets we've ever approved, likening to the $9 million sale of an asset. But it is also on just a pure number basis, quite a few for 6 months. And these are items that were deemed operationally important and necessary by this board. But wanted to walk through those and where the sources of these supplemental budgets are coming from. First was the $25,000 development to Whitehaven. That's coming out of our general ops. The $216,000 payback to Brown County for the Brown Ranch reimbursement. That was funds that we've already received. So that is just a payback of part of that reimbursement, as we've talked about. $200,000 to the DPA. As you see, we're revamping that. It's highly used. I saw on the financials, we have $240,000 out the door this year. I'm assuming that it's $20,000 a pop right there. So, 9 to 11 of those going out. There's $375,000 currently still remaining in that fund. So hoping that more and more people are utilizing that through the second half of the year. But that is a transfer directly from our mill levy into that DPA program. The fourth supplemental, which was discussed ad nauseam, so we'll go over too much in detail, but it is a $9 million development sale, of which we received $5 million of those proceeds went to complete phase 1 of the Mid-Valley condominiums. And the remaining $4 million upon closing or finalizing that transaction will go to pay off the Alpine loan associated with phase 1. So $9 million in and $9 million out does not necessarily affect our current cash, although the interest on that loan does. That is coming out of general ops for the organization. Fifth supplemental budget, as we discussed last meeting, 2 meetings ago, is our half of the closing fees at the Cottonwoods to buy down and adjust a portion of the AMI sales prices. That's $311,000. Presumably that is cash in, cash out. We're outlaying the cash ahead of time, but we will recoup that through the closing of those units. Or close to. We'll know when we get through all of that, if we actually recoup the 311, because it is based on sale. So a lot of unbudgeted supplemental budget items, a lot of which is governmental accounting, where we have to approve the expenditure beyond what we approved in the budget. But suffice to say that a lot of these are not, it's not 100% sources from existing assets or existing cash balances from the organization depleting further our assets. We are selling an asset to fund some of these. We are creating income to fund some of these. But there are some cash positions that will be depleted for those supplemental budgets. And that is just halfway through the year. I'll get to the planned and budget expenses now. Obviously, the board training that we have coming up in September was unbudgeted. The ED search, obviously unbudgeted, and any potential ED salary remaining or upon executing that search and hiring somebody will be a supplemental budget for whatever portion of the remaining year they are on. Governmental funds, cash is about $904,000, about 6 months of operating expense. We will go through that in more detail here in a second, including some of the cash that we have that is currently encumbered. but is expected to return to us in the next 12 to 16 months. Incoming cash, this is actually incoming revenue to the, or some of it is revenue, some of it is pre-allocated capital. Obviously the Cottonwoods developer fee, having the, and I haven't looked at a pro forma on the entire project or on phase one of Cottonwoods for a couple of months, but knowing the Alpine loan is down to 1.9 million, that is ahead of some of the projections we had just recently. So that is a positive step because that it reduces our carrying interest cost and really protects that developer fee of $828,000. That is revenue generation to the organization. And it also protects our capital position of $1.8 million, of which we allocated from 2023 on, that will be returned to us and put back in the development fund. And then we have a couple sureties out there to complete Cottonwoods phase one so that we can trigger that developer fee and the return of capital. That is cash we currently have that is on deposit in CDs, but it is encumbered. So it is not truly liquid to us in the financial statements. Just a note there on the Cottonwoods, the $9 million, we've received the $5 million that's already been allocated into finishing up phase one. And upon close of the sale, the $4 million will then pay off the remaining loan with Alpine Bank associated with infrastructure. So the next page, continuing on some Cottonwoods items. We received $3,000 in application fees and 109 of commissions. That's 109 of that 311 that we have are going to then reinvest back into reducing and adjusting the prices on some units. So a couple $100,000 left to go on that. We paid HOA fees to stand up the HOA, to give operating expenses for the HOA as the units sell and the owners take over those payments. So we're about 47,000 on that. It was in the iterations I've seen on pro forma, we had budgeted somewhere in the realm of $80,000 to $90,000 for that. So hopefully we don't exceed that, and that is a savings. Further solidifying that developer fee in capital return. Interest on the 400 million, as I said, that is coming directly out of our operating cash. 111,000 so far. We had budgeted, so it's not necessarily, you're not seeing it in the supplemental budget. We knew this was coming at budget time, and we made I believe it was around $250,000 budget item for that. So we're currently at 111 and are anxiously awaiting the close of the sale to receive the $4 million to pay off and stop that interest carry. $200,000 of the total capital expenses retainage, which will be inversed by the TAG grant when the project is finished. So again, all the things that we've deemed operationally necessary to get phase one to the finish line, that closing is very important to us, as you can see here from a number of fiscal standpoints that will pay off debt, return capital, and stop the carrying of interest. DPA transfer 400,000 of the DPA assistance fund. We've awarded 501. Doesn't match our financials. Oh, in prop grants, right? So we've spent 240 of our own cash, and 501 total. Went to first time no bars. It's a very successful program. Capping it at $20,000 is probably, a little less than the market is demanding, but it's what we have as far as resources. Love to do somewhere in the 50 range, but we want to make sure that this is getting out to most people and it's being utilized. So the program is successful, and the Prop 123 grant is obviously an Achilles heel to that. Just some property notes from a financial standpoint. As you see there, we're within budget on Hillside and Fish Creek. Mini grants, the term mini grant, from Enterprise, which went toward the rehab planning cost of $30,000, so we didn't have to come out of pocket on the rehab work that has been done so far. $9,000 in infrastructure design in Whitehaven. And then we had 4 water breaks so far this year. just really underlining the importance of the infrastructure update that we need to do out there. Because just putting Band-Aids on it is an operational expense that we'd like to get rid of. So those are the notes on the 6:30 financials. Before I jump to cash, are there any questions on this report? And thank you to Sandy for putting this together.
When do we expect closed?
On the Cottonwoods? They had up to 2 years to do it. So it's truly when they get through their work and whatever they need to do to get to closing. I haven't heard a date being set, but
As I understand it, the due diligence is going very well. And I think we could potentially see something here in the next like 4 to 6 months.
that said, I fully expect that we'll spend the budgeted amount on carrying interest for that loan. Okay, we'll jump back up to that first page then, please. Question that I fielded a few times, and Sandy has sat with a board member too on, is the cash position of government accounting is purposely confusing. What is encumbered, what is restricted, what is free to use, what is that combined cash going on in between the funds? You can tell that a lot of the governmental accounting standards were written by lawyers that wanted to keep a job. And so in order to simplify that, Sandy has come up with first iteration of where is our cash position, what is encumbered, what is restricted, and what is coming or expected to be coming to us so that we can make or continue to make fiscal decisions on future developments, what level we can participate in, what level we need to go source other capital and cash. So you see here that you know on the balance sheet it says we have $4.8 million in cash. That is not liquid assets to us. We cannot go and spend $4 million tomorrow because of the various funds that we have this cash in, various restrictions on that cash within the funds, and then some encumbrances that we've put on willingly in the last year. So as you see there, I'll go to the middle part there with the red. Of that $3.7 million that's in the governmental funds there, 1.7 or 1.8 round numbers is restricted cash above. Restricted Route County Brown Ranch grant, that's obviously cash that is sitting in our account, but we can only use for now Slate Creek uses. Restricted Dole Estate Slate Creek grant, that's another grant awarded for future planning of that. And then we have our designated minimum fund balance policy. This was set by the board many eons ago, and the finance team has in their policy as the minimum fund balance and reserve for operations. So taking all those into account, that's a self-imposed restriction, by the way. Taking that into account, we have the $900,000 of total available cash to us. That is 9 months of operating expense, give or take. That is in and around any average organization's minimum of OPEX cash reserve or liquid cash. That doesn't tell the whole story though, because if you go down just a little bit more, things to keep in mind here. We have some material encumbrances of cash that we have put on ourselves, development transfer to Hillside Village for rehab. That's $225,000. Cottonwoods unit buy down. Again, we source that cash prior to receiving it in income. So it should be a 1-for-1 or near 1-for-1 trade in the cash balance, but it will take time as we outlay that cash before receiving it. The unbudgeted expenses, as we've talked about here, including the big dash question mark there of any kind of salary or relocation expense associated with the hiring of a new ED. And then expected but not guaranteed incoming cash. This is where I think a lot of the misunderstanding or vague nature of what we've done as far as allocating cash and encumbrances, and when we can use that cash again. She's done, or Sandy has done the best putting, when we can expect that cash, on a conservative basis. But all of this is set to come back to us, within the next, 12 to 18 months. Obviously, the Cottonwoods development fee is gonna be income to us at the final closing of that deal, along with the capital contribution of 1.8 million sometime this year, next year. Tag grant reimbursement on the retainage, again, all is incumbent upon the finish of phase one. And then the two sureties that we have out there for the city of Steamboat and Mount Warner Water. The Mount Warner Water one, although a lower amount is the furthest out, we have to put a surety on that for 2 years, starting this year. So 161,000 will be encumbered for that 2 year period. The majority of the surety in the Steamboat Springs 1.4 million will come back to us relatively soon. I expect this calendar year, with the remaining coming next year. And that is the note down below. The park of phase two, which is going to be part of this whole due diligence with the purchaser of phase two land, is estimated at 350 to 400K. If the new owners don't build it, we will need to complete that. So I expect the $1 million to $1.1 million coming back to us relatively soon, or being unencumbered, so that we can consider that surety cash back in our liquid assets. But the 350 and 400 will kind of sit out there until it is known what the new owners are going to do with a park out there. And there's some nuance to that and civil planning that is above my pay grade. That we feel reasonably assured that we will receive that, or be able to unencumber that cash and not spend it sometime next year. Obviously, the big one on here is we have one more year of mill levy to come back to us in the realm of 1.1 to 1.3 million. That will be collected in 2027. So some significant cash is coming to us, although I would say that we are a little cash strapped at the moment, being that we have 9 months or 6 months of OpEx. Again, the reason we are there is because we've made operationally necessary decisions by this board, specifically around Cottonwoods 1, phase 1, and our current assets, to get those projects done or rehabbed. Clear as mud?
Clear as mud. Question, Elliot, the 1.8, wherever it went, our investment in Cottonwoods, along with our development fee. Do you see anything that threatens that value?
We actually talked about this on the partnership call yesterday, and Todd is in the process of providing us with a new cash flow summary. Should have it. It sounds like in the maybe tomorrow or Friday at the late, or Monday at the latest. But based on his comments, it looks like we're both going to get our developer fee and our return of capital on this project.
So
We're tracking.
We're tracking
to receive both of those.
Does that mean there will be excess left over?
That's kind of what he's indicated.
What's that number?
I mean, when he sends me the
Okay, you did
cash flow, yeah, I'll send that over.
I can't imagine it'll be too material, but it'll be something, and we'd rather be cash positive on it, short.
Right.
Any other questions?
At least it's tracking though, so that's good news.
Any other questions? All right, this was a presentation. So there's no action required. We'll move on to the Hilltop project presentation.
Sarah, do you want me to take over?
Yeah, go for it. I made you co-host to see the role.
Why it's not showing it?
Do you see it on your computer? Let's see what I can do here.
Well, for the sake of time, actually, well, so Elizabeth told me that she can see the slides. So on the Zoom, it's showing, it's just not displaying in the room. But I can also just have you run them. You want me to stop sharing?
All right, folks, give me a second.
I'll just get started so that we can save some time. And then we'll have the slides catch up. So we are, there's no action item today. This is an update, the Forest Service Hilltop project. And I'm happy to take any questions that you have about it. So backing up, the Housing Authority, the city and the county have been talking about this project since 2018, when the Farm Bill in 2018 gave the Forest Service the authority to lease qualifying administrative sites. And part of this program, what makes this program special is that it allows for in-kind consideration. So if the entity developing that site is able to provide in-kind value to the Forest Service, that it can actually offset the cost of the land lease. And that's important because it would enable us to take the cost of the land out of the project, which will help drive affordability. So that's the premise of this program. And it's structured so that the city or the county has the right of first refusal to enter into the land lease. And so we worked with both the city and the county. Those two groups determined that the city was the appropriate entity to lead this, since the site that we're going to be talking about is in city limits. And the city executed their right of first refusal in April of 2024. And we've been working closely with them under an MOU since then to work on the development of the site. This leasing authority has since been extended. It's extended through September of 2028. So we have about 2 years to get a site lease. And I'm going to pause here because I do want to show the site if we have the chance. So we're talking about it's an 8.5 acre site. And it was first acquired by the Forest Service in 1995. The initial purpose for the forest was for them to develop their administrative offices there. They went through their own independent process to determine that they do not need to do that. And so they had no use for the property, which was what triggered this process. And it's a great site. It's on Hilltop Drive. It's just across the street from Fox Creek, the property that YVHA first developed in 2003, 2007, I can't remember, a long time ago.
Long time ago.
And so it's in a mixed use neighborhood. It's close to Highway 40, public transit. It's in between downtown and mountains, so close to jobs, all of the services, and it also has utility tie-ins. So it's a great site. It's a great neighborhood to continue to have additional housing in, and we're really excited about the opportunity to work with our partners to develop it.
We having IT problems.
We are having IT problems.
Okay.
There it is. Yay. Sarah, you can skip down to project need, please.
Project needs.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so this project is interesting because, as I mentioned, we do need to provide in-kind value to the Forest Service in order to get that $0 land lease. And so the Forest Service has determined that it needs 18 units of housing across a wide spectrum of AMIs or of incomes to accommodate their workforce. The city as a partner has also indicated that it may need employee units. And then there's this broad community need. This is an excerpt from our demand study. It essentially shows that there's need for housing at all income levels, and the both tenure types of both rental and for sale. But this project is really going to focus on this area where there's the greatest need just in terms of volume of units, which is around 60% to 80% AMI rentals. YVHA's development goals have been for years to seek development projects that first provide units that meet the need, that limit risk to the housing authority, that provide an opportunity for asset management and or property management so that we have that local accountability. And then the lowest priority is return on investment. So those goals are part of this project, but then we have some project specific goals. So as I mentioned, providing units in kind to the Forest Service so that we accomplish that, or we offset the cost of the ground lease and have the $0 land. It's also an opportunity for us to utilize tax exempt bond financing, which is a tool that we can use to create pretty deep affordability without using LIHTC, which is something that we're interested in trying. And then we would also, the way that we've structured the project, we would be owning the buildings, which gives us control and decision-making and that local accountability that we've talked about. So the way that we have structured this, I have two slides and they basically show the same information, just shown in different ways. But the Forest Service would continue to be the landowner and would, the city of Steamboat Springs would sign a lease. And then concurrently with the city signing the ground lease, they would assign that lease to YVHA. As I mentioned, YVHA would own the development. And we'd be working with a turnkey or fee developer to provide development services to help us build the apartments. YVHA would be the asset manager as the owner. And then Servitas is the group that responded to our RFP several years ago to be our developer partner. And they've proposed that they'd also be the property manager. That's not set in stone, that's still to be determined. So this is another way, this is the org chart to view the structure that I just went through, but it also introduces a few other players into the project, including the investment banker who would be preparing the bonds for us to take to market, and the proposed general contractor who would be on a design build contract. Okay, so the overall program, what we're proposing to build is 84 apartments in 1, 2, and 3 bedroom configurations. This would be a different style of apartment development in 13 buildings to try to take advantage of the topography on the site and also keep the heights down so that we're trying to minimize obstructions of views of the neighbors behind the site. So it'd be 6 unit buildings and a couple of 8 unit buildings. This would be income-based workforce housing. So as I mentioned, 18 units would be prioritized for Forest Service employees as part of that lease agreement. What we've talked about with the city in the past was 10 units prioritized for city employees, but we need to revisit that conversation because it's been a while. And then the remaining 56 units would be open to the community. And we've structured the project to serve a wide range of incomes. So we're talking about some seasonal Forest Service staff. These tend to be pretty low paid seasonal jobs. So having units that are affordable to them. But then also going up to an eligibility cap of 140% of AMI. We've talked about setting an affordability cap that's about 10% higher than the rent level so that we have a cushion that makes it so that these rents are truly affordable to the target income group for each AMI level. And our current affordability target, I mentioned there's this broad range of anywhere from 40% up to 110% AMI. With a qualifying cap of 140% AMI, but we're trying to average at about 75% of area median income, which is pretty close to what the local average wage is. We'll have to get that down even further. But as you know, the more that we drive down rents, the bigger the gap grows and the more subsidy we need to make the project possible. Yes. Yeah, please.
I'm not trying to pull a Catherine here and get in the weeds about the product type. Say that with
Thank you.
respect, Catherine. But I'm just curious, like, because this program was contemplated several years ago, right? And we now have a little bit new information about Cottonwoods. That's done with the market, what we're seeing in the current rental projects. Like, is there an opportunity to compare what we're seeing there and make sure this is the right thing, the right mix?
Do you mean in terms of bedroom, like unit mix with the number of bedrooms or AMI mix or?
I mean,
or
one of the
building?
questions I would ask if we were further along in program is like, how many one bedrooms are there? That's where we saw the most weakness in Cottonwoods, and I would assume that's probably where some of the rentals stuff is, but like, I don't want to get too far into it because I want to keep you rolling, but
Yeah,
it's just a question that I have.
the question is yes and no. So we're not too deep in that we should be and have been, the staff internally have been evaluating all of that to make sure that we're on the right path. But I would absolutely welcome additional input from the board. We went through an appraisal process with the Forest Service to determine the in-kind value to make sure that we actually can get that $0 land lease, and the appraisal is based on the current program. So we would have to get a new appraisal, which is not a problem. Like, we want to make sure that we get it right. So the answer is yes, we can change those things and it will come with additional process. So I would say from a staff level, we've been looking at it like, are there major red flags or like not trying to get it absolutely perfect, but just wanting to avoid like major red flags has been the kind of the level of analysis that we've been doing. But
Clarification, when you said, talking about the correct mix, did you mean of unit type or did you mean of AMI range?
Both.
Both, okay.
I mean, I just, for my own clarification, you're expressing concern that one bedrooms are gonna be harder to rent. Is that the concern?
I'm saying I don't necessarily have enough information to say that, yeah, this is for sure the right unit mix. We powered through with like the Cottonwoods program with being majority one bedroom units, and now we're struggling to sell those. How do we take that data point and apply it to other projects? I'm not saying we should never build another one bedroom by any means.
Oh, no.
But, and then same, like, if we have a demand study that says that the highest concentration is in rental and 80 to 100% AMI, how do we just shore up? Like, how do we make sure all of our different inputs of information are matching, even though it's been several years since each of those have been produced? I feel like that is an opportunity with the delay in this project.
I would love to have that conversation in detail, maybe in a separate meeting.
Yeah.
Because I do think it's a really important conversation. In the past, I think there was such a deficit in affordable housing that whatever YVHA built was absolutely gonna get filled. And we're now finding that we need to be much more strategic and targeted to make sure that we're building the right thing.
Yes.
I do think that there's definitely a difference between a one bedroom condo versus apartment. So I don't know if that's like a 1-to-1 comparison, but I would love to talk through with board members how we do that analysis before we do a market study.
That's what I thank you for asking that question. So always channel you over here. But no, I think I guess, do you have a projected this number of bedroom mix and number of AMI mix yet?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have something that would be, I think, helpful to see? And I think that, look back to Mike Land's comment, I think we do need to take a look, both since we've been talking about this since 2018, which is a journey, but we're gonna get there. But there's a lot of other new product coming online. We've got Cottonwoods Phase 2 that Gorman's doing. We have the new Riverview ones. I think it would be advantageous for to look at, what the product mix is, both in number of bedrooms and AMI, and also see what else is coming online and make sure this is what the community needs, because it's a great thing that we're seeing in our community, other partners in building affordable housing. They're not just housing authority. That's fantastic. Plus the city is doing Stockbridge, but we all need to, I think, look holistically what type of product, size, bedrooms and prices we're doing so that we're hitting our need. Because back to the need slide, I mean, the big rental need is just, that's not, is that 60 to 80 really? And, let's not forget if we could squish in, 40s. The other comment I wanted to suggest we look at this is, we are a maturing housing authority and, the most mature housing authority in the mountains right now is Aspen. And what they're doing now is they are not using AMI charts for rentals. I think Steve is going to visit the lumberyard when he's visiting at a CNL meeting later this month. Aspen has developed their own rents, like Norman did at Riverview. And we know the AMI charts are not reflective of what our wages are. We know that rents go up, not based on wages. So I wonder if it's possible at this Forest Service, when we're looking at the pro forma, to see if we want to use AMI charts, at the very least, we can discount them on the rent or come up with our own. And I recognize that by having more affordability, we do need more subsidies. There's no question about that. But that's one of the reasons that people in our community work so hard to pass the SDR tax. See, Steve hates when I mention it, but that's why we recognize the community. We have to subsidize to not cost burden. So I would just agree with Michael Ann that perhaps a deeper dive into product mix, AMIs, the rents, and also looking at it with what else is being built. So we know the complement.
Yeah, I think, go ahead.
And like, dare I do this, but I'm going to. Is there an opportunity, would there be a world, is it even allowable to consider a some for sale mixture to this?
We have talked about that at the development team. I do think that with the ground lease structure, it adds
Yeah.
a lot of additional complexity. But yes, so I think that the development team is the appropriate venue to have that more detailed conversation. So I'll let you know when that next meeting is, or at least when this is on the agenda again. And also Catherine agree. One way that we're currently structuring this to have AMI because we want to leave it open for other subsidy, like state-based subsidy where AMI is,
We can still discount the rents.
Excuse me?
We can still discount the rents though, not me too, I'm sorry.
No, we have discounted
Yeah.
the rents.
Okay.
So what I was gonna say was that part of how we continue to use the AMI structure, but make it work for us in our community is we have deep affordability. So that's why we have units that are affordable at 40% AMI, 50% AMI, because that's more in touch with the local workforce. And then we also have that discount from you can qualify up to this AMI, but your rent's set here. And so it's like that delta is affordable, there's affordability.
Yeah, that's a good option. We might want to look at other options. Because as I said, for the lumberyard, Gorman got the middle income housing tax credit. And they're still using the Aspen Housing Authority's rents and not the AMI charts. So I believe there's some flexibility at the state now in doing that. And I think it's also important for housing authorities that have had success like ours and Aspen to be leaders in getting affordability. But I don't go into the weeds too much, Kathy, so.
Catherine, I would remind all of us that the financing mechanism is the US bond market. And it's what they're used to. So to the extent you're trying to do lease and sale, it's gonna be really complicated because now you've got units that are no longer rental. And also when it comes to AMI, they're used to what that number is and whether or not we like it or not. I think it's something that we have to come back to. It's not the Forest Service that's gonna make that decision. It's the bond underwriters.
I think it depends. So I'm just saying it's a new world out there in a lot of this. So just to take a look, I'm not talking about the sale, the combo sale lease would be challenging. But I do think there might be, I think I would just suggest we look at that, explore an opportunity to not tie our rents to AMI charts that we know will feature cost burden the tenants. So.
Yes, I think that's great feedback. Another great thing about the way that we've structured this project is that we will be the owner and asset
Right.
manager, so we have control over the rent. So we obviously need to meet our debt obligations, but we have the ability to adjust as needed. Okay, so finally, I've put this schedule together and I've tried to forecast to you some of the decisions that as we move forward will come before the board. So the first, right now we're in this early pre-development phase, kind of like in the squishy place between a project concept and real pre-development work, where we've been working on a ground lease for quite some time, working on a pre-development agreement with Servitas, and then starting some initial funding discussions with the city in September. And so those are some like 3 threshold items that once we've had some good progress on those, we'll move toward true pre-development work with all the design, entitlements, financing to get us toward a groundbreaking, which I'm currently anticipating in spring of 2028. So anyway, the next time that you'll see this project would be with a pre-development agreement with Servitas, which we'll hopefully have ready for you in the fall. So this is somewhat similar to the schedule slide, but just some immediate next steps that we've been working on this spring and summer. We've been working on making sure that the ground lease with the Forest Service is truly financeable. So made some great progress there, and heard this morning an update that we might actually have something to review back from the Forest Service in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that's exciting. And yeah, everything else I already mentioned. And then we're also working on renaming the project to something more fun. So if anyone wants to participate in a little survey, we have a short list. I'm gonna send it to the board and you can opt in if you want to participate. Any other questions?
In order to respond to Michael's comments and questions,
Yes.
is that something we should do at an upcoming development team meeting?
I think so.
Is September 1st the right one, or?
We have an absolutely stacked development team agenda.
Yeah, okay, yeah, okay.
It could be like a day-long meeting. With everything that we have in mind to discuss. So I'm not sure if it'll be this one or the next one. I think, yeah, we'll let the 3 of us work through that.
Okay.
Let me ask this is not probably a good question to ask. But looking at the property and number of buildings and whatnot, is there any unused space that could possibly house a early childhood education facility on this property?
I cannot answer that off the top of my head. We'd have to analyze it. I think what it would probably mean is reducing the number of housing units. Like we have 13 buildings plus the office, so making one of those rather than housing childcare. It'd be something we'd have to analyze.
I mean, just as a comment.
I just would like to, and I don't even know if it's a possibility, but again, I think that every time we look at housing, we should ask the question. Just to see if there might be opportunities.
I mean, this layout is primarily associated with fitting in with the neighborhood more than anything. It's not as efficient as you would like.
Yes, thank you for that. And we can look at what that would mean.
I have a question about the layout. Like, you got a lot of steps before that, but like, how set are you on this layout? Is the design team moving on this layout?
No, this was a conceptual layout that we used to advance the process of getting an appraisal to advance the ground lease. So there hasn't been any kind of design beyond this early concept. Recognizing, I think to Lou's point, it's not particularly economically efficient. It's an attempt to fit within the neighborhood.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Okay, thanks, Emily. Good work.
Sure, thank you. Okay, moving on to Slate Creek neighborhood, formerly Brown Ranch. So the the Slate Creek Steering Committee met yesterday and so we're gonna debrief that meeting a bit later, but first I'm gonna go through the annexation roadmap in a bit more detail than we have in the past. You all saw it initially in late June in conjunction with the board's discussion about whether to advance an annexation this year or follow this roadmap. So I'm just gonna walk the group through it in a little bit more detail, and I'm happy to take questions as we go. So this roadmap has changed a little bit since you all reviewed it 6 to 8 weeks ago. But the vision here is that we're moving from where we are today to an annexation vote in November of 2027, which really means that most of this work actually has to be wrapped up about a year from now. So this is a lot of work to get done in a year. And we're looking at we've split these up into work streams. So some of them are sort of like discrete phases within this process. And then they're supported by this governance work stream and the community engagement, which is part of the entire process. So you'll see that a lot of this work happens concurrently, but some is dependent and iterative on the others. And then one thing I'm just gonna note is there's some stars at the top, which show the Slate Creek Steering Committee meetings. And then the orange diamonds below that are a development advisory team, which is a group that doesn't exist yet that we're going to form in the next few weeks. Okay, so the governance and management work stream is work that's really been in process for quite some time. It was establishing the Slate Creek Steering Committee, which is comprised of members of YVHA, City of Steamboat Springs, and Route County. And we operate on a consensus model, which means that when we're voting on things, we have to actually come to an agreement. It's not majority rule, which is something that we came up against yesterday that we'll talk about later in the conversation. But the purpose of that is that we're really trying to build consensus so that we don't get hung up on things or move past roadblocks that could be much bigger problems down the road, which is something that we experienced several years ago through the RAC process that we're going to try to avoid this time. We can move on from that. Okay, so then when we get into the technical work of the site, the first is the opportunities and constraints. So this is really revisiting all of the work that the Housing Authority has done over the past 5 years with the site and evaluating what we have, what is still relevant and usable, what just needs a refresh, and what needs to be entirely redone. It's looking at the site with the new lens and starting with the full site framework to understand the circulation, the drainage, just like the major sort of opportunities and constraints, looking at the full site for potentially future development, and then narrowing down on a smaller and more specific planning area for the rest of the work in roadmap. And so this phase will inform all of the others that follow, and the final deliverable will be some summary. Next is the scenario analysis, which is the heart of the roadmap, where we are looking at that smaller planning area and looking at different strategies to develop it. So we'd be looking at different development typologies, housing types, and then working with the community to figure out what performance metrics we want to use to evaluate the scenarios. So some might perform really well in things like affordability, but be denser. Others might be less dense and require more subsidy. Those are just 2 metrics that we could look at, but there's a number of others. Traffic impact, for example, could be a metric, or we might find that traffic impact is the same across all scenarios and it's not worth, comparing. But basically, this is the heart of the community engagement as well. So giving the community an opportunity to have different choices and figure out what they like or don't like about the different scenarios. And then we refine from there. And when we refine, we get into the development strategy phase, which is taking that preferred scenario, or taking what we like and don't like of all the scenarios, coming up with a preferred scenario, turning that preferred scenario into a development plan. And with that development plan, an annexation agreement and zoning for the site, and all of the work that goes into an actual annexation. as I mentioned, to get that wrapped up in about a year from now so that we're ballot ready for 2027. And community engagement will happen at all levels, but as I mentioned, it's going to be the most important in the scenario planning. We really wanted to make the community engagement. I guess we're sensitive to all of the engagement that has come before and not wanting to exhaust people and ask the same questions. So wanting to really focus engagement on places where the community will have choices and where that that input can be meaningful. So we've designed the engagement strategy around that. And then I'd also mentioned at the beginning, we have this development advisory team, which is envisioned to have different types of development expertise, most of it local, but it doesn't necessarily have to be local, to help review some of the work at sort of critical milestones to make sure that everything that is happening is rooted in feasibility. So it's really important that, the scenarios the community is evaluating are all actually feasible. And so there's quite a bit of economic analysis and feasibility that will be going on in the background in conjunction with the land planning. So one of the outcomes, not of the last steering committee meeting, but the meeting prior to that, was for YVHA as the project manager to come up with a preferred team. And we actually have some existing relationships with other with vendors. And so responding to the steering committee's desire to act quickly, I wanted to leverage those existing vendor relationships that we already had. So this is the organizational structure with the steering committee steering the work. YVHA is the project manager accountable to the steering committee. And then Cascadia Partners is the lead consultant. Cascadia Partners is a group, they're based in Portland, Oregon, and they have quite a few disciplines, but at their heart, they're a development consultant, also specialize in urban planning, economic analysis. And they'd be the lead consultant, taking the lead on the technical work that I mentioned, and particularly the scenario analysis, and then would be supported by a civic canopy who would be facilitating that steering committee group, and then community builders working with civic canopy on the community engagement. So I've been working with all of these groups over the past month or so to work on a scope and get some budget estimates, put together a comprehensive budget, and presented that to the steering committee yesterday. We have a range. Change the slides, please. This is first looking at income. So as Cole mentioned in the finance report, we do have $500,000 from a grant from Rapp County, and the scope of uses for that grant are perfectly aligned with what this roadmap is. So that's great that we have that money available for us to be able to get going as soon as possible. And then the city also has some existing grants that are more focused on community engagement. So we're working on aligning that, these different income sources and matching up the eligibility of uses with the source and who's managing what grant. It's complicated, but we're working through it. And then on the expense side, this is a comprehensive roadmap budget. So it includes the costs of the consultants, but also additional work like building out the website, rebranding the property, legal work for the annexation agreement when we get to that point. And so we currently have a range estimate of $440,000 to a little over $705,000. So the material that I presented to you all is quite similar to what the steering committee went through yesterday. And I'll kick it off to Lou and Shannon to report on our steering committee meeting yesterday.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think the heart of our discussion yesterday, in particular, circulated around Councilmember Barnes's concerns about moving forward with Cascadia Partners. So we are kind of at a stalemate right now without consensus on with whom to move forward as far as a development partner goes. So that's kind of where we left off, is we're still kind of in the air. But yeah, Lou, I'll let you fill in any gaps that I missed.
Okay. I looked at Dave's comments. I agree with some of them. I don't agree with others. I think the big, on a big picture, should we continue with the same team that we had? And from that standpoint, I haven't worked with Cascadia, but they have the background, they're urban planners essentially. And they have skill at this. You can say what you want about community builders. They seem, their strength is in community engagement, and that is not something we have done effectively. So I would hesitate to, say they can't meet the need on, and these are my opinions. Okay. And Civic Canopy, I think, does a good job at facilitating. So I believe probably the biggest concern is, should we just hire a developer and move forward? As opposed to go through an engagement process, go through a planning process. Let's set some land aside, and maybe we should have a faster annexation. It has been suggested that city council can vote.
On the development partner,
No,
On the
on the
annexation.
city council could vote on an annexation.
on the annexation.
I'm not sure if any of those things are viable. Go ahead.
Sorry, you're referencing Councilmember Barnes's concerns, but what are they?
Yeah, I'm just gonna back up and lay a little context. So the goal of the meeting yesterday was for us to walk through this roadmap, and then for me to get authorization on the team and the budget that I put forward to continue scoping with them and to get going so that we can meet this, get all this work done in the next year. And Councilor Barnes had expressed concerns, just about one about transparency. So I mentioned that we have existing relationships with some of these vendors. Cascadia Partners was initially part of the community builders team, so they responded to the city's RFP in 2024, and with a really similar scope to what I just presented. And we didn't do that work last year for whatever reason. I think mostly because the focus shifted to not like how do we do Brown Ranch, but if Brown Ranch was the community conversation last year. And but there's still a sub-consultant of community builders. So we had the opportunity to work with them. I was really impressed by them in their interview and the initial work that they had done with us. And so I thought, let's just do that. But there's also an opportunity to open up an RFP and see who else is out there. What other expertise is available, the price. So that was the direction that I was looking for. And Councilor Barnes was concerned about transparency, and then also just about moving as quickly as possible to get something done.
Thank you.
I would say, I think, I wish that Dave was here, so Councilman Barnes was here, so he could hear his concerns, but I think if we actually, since we've been working with this team, they've got a lot of knowledge. I agree with you, it makes sense, and if we want to move quickly or more efficiently, quickly is not a good word for government. The only thing I would suggest, I think Cascadia, just what I've seen has been excellent. I would make the friendly suggestion that I do think community builders has opportunities to increase their with community engagement. So I would think if we do move forward, I just would ask that we request that is a requirement. But I didn't really see a lot of, they were great in small meetings, but there was not the, in my opinion, broad community. So I make that suggestion. One question I do have is if on this timeline. So yeah, the game plan really is that during the spring of next year, or winter and spring of 2027, the community would see different scenarios on this side.
Yes.
When would the community see the final development?
in early summer.
And see, I think the one thing, because really a lot of people are not gonna pay attention till they see the final plan, is what we've seen in the past. And I wanna just reinforce, just so we learn from, previous experiences. What we cannot have is annexation, everything's finalized in late August, early September. And then all of a sudden there's a vote and some poor campaign team has to figure out how to campaign on it. I mean, the community outreach, my opinion, has to be done on that final development plan by this group to hear from the community, whether they like it or not. The marketing materials, the messaging materials have to be prepared during that process. So if and or when a campaign takes it over, that material is already ready. Because one of the biggest challenges we had in Brown Ranch was all of a sudden the people who knew the most about the project couldn't talk about it and couldn't message it. So I actually thought, I think this timeline is ambitious. And I think I just wonder if there's enough time from that final development plan to reach out and hear from the community. So just a thought.
Quick question.
Yes.
Who's gonna develop? What, like, what's the plan? Like, you're putting the development plan together and then who's gonna develop that? Like, who's actually gonna put like the shovel in the ground and develop it?
We don't know yet. So one of the things that will happen in that development strategy work stream is to work through all of the different ways that we, like the different partnership models and like how we would actually tackle whatever is planned out there.
Said this a couple times, like, oh, probably nothing will happen, but we need a development partner. Like, this makes no sense. I'm sorry to say that, but like, you don't have a consultant come together with the whole development plan. A developer is they have the financial model behind them. We need a development partner. I'm just gonna say that. I don't need to say anything else. We're gonna be sitting here in 2 years.
I'm not,
Plan that we can't do anything with.
I'm not sure I agree with that, but I think the developer advisory team is expected to provide us with insights into the development community. Whether this is going to be a single developer, multiple developers, which I suspect it will be, multiple developers. Having a developer develop the development plan is, that's fine. But how much of that brings input from the community, which was one of our big problems.
Which is what developers do, right? I would challenge, find a development of this size and scale that a developer has not been the one to lead that process. Like go to Summit County, or go anywhere, right? Like find a project, find a piece of land that's developed, that's community is developed, right? That has diverse uses. And let's look at that. That's just very rare. Like what we're doing is not what we're diverging from what is market.
Scott, there have been recommendations made to this steering committee to do exactly what you said. I have no idea why that hasn't happened. And I share your concern and I agree 100% with what you're saying. I just don't understand what has been going on.
I'm gonna jump in and support Scott too, because the one successful annexation that we've had in the West Steamboat is Bryn Gray, and that was a developer who came in with a development plan. So by the time they started talking, by the time the annexation process, people could look at it, they could see what the house is gonna look like, they could see the size. I think prices could have been a little, stronger, but and that's kind of, we're saying the same thing, is because we need an end product. And that was sort of my question, when are we gonna have that developer coming in with that, this is the end product? And maybe Scott's right, that should be sooner rather than later, and that person could then be the honest messenger, I won't say honest, but the transparent messenger, this is what's gonna look like. So, yeah, because I just worry that next summer, if all of a sudden we're trying to actually get the development specifics that fast, we might not have enough time for the community to be happy about it before they vote in November, so.
I guess when I take this feedback to the steering committee, are you saying that you want that in lieu of the advisory team or in addition to?
I think it could be an addition to.
Okay.
It's just like we're missing that component, and that,
Mhm.
to me, that's that's who should be leading a lot of this. They'll take feedback, they lead this, the community planner can help them with everything.
Mhm.
But it feels, based on this, like we're gonna go to the development community in a year or two and say, build this. And when that development community says, that's not feasible, or we need to change this, that's gonna be a problem. But if we have a developer on board, we're developers, right? If you say, hey, look, we want this single family housing developer to be a part, we want this multifamily developer to be a part, we want this commercial development part,
Said another
at
way.
least they're at the table.
Said another way, what goes to the community as options have to be feasible, doable, cost effective.
Can you go back to slide 9? Let me go with this. I have a question that I think precedes all this, but is Cascadia Partners currently contracted
With community builders.
in the, well, are they currently contracted for this structure, being an overall consultant?
No. No.
And so the housing authority, as I read this, is the project manager would have to enter into contract with them, right?
Yes, I think so. That would be the cleanest.
And it's probably at an amount that requires an RFP per policy. Didn't you have? More
Yeah, I
than
mean,
250?
so their contract is with community builders currently, which is with the city of Steamboat Springs.
But if we enter into a new project with them, or a new scope
Yeah.
agreement. I would assume something in the realm of $200,000 plus, right? So to that point then, if we are if we're the owner of that contract and that relationship, is it as simple as swapping out this Cascadia partner for a development expert? And have them be the lead on this community engagement with the current contract that community builders has? That makes sense.
I don't know if it would be that simple.
You're talking
Well,
about
I want it to be
swapping
that
out,
simple.
Yeah.
swapping out the Cascadia in this particular organizational chart with an actual
Developer.
developer that would move all the way through.
And in as we oversee the development partner or the development contractor or whatever contract, they are working with the current iteration of what community builders is for that community engagement alongside Cascadia Partners and the technical experts.
So you're saying to swap out Cascade and community builders, Cole, for the development?
No, because the developer's not gonna wanna do, I assume that they're not gonna have that community outreach expertise, at least the last iteration of this, they didn't. Michael's organization, right? They relied on their kind of apparatus to garner that community feedback and then help start developing.
Yeah, Scott, how do you envision this? Do you, I mean, scrap the roadmap altogether or find a developer? And then the question is, what kind of developer, like master developer, affordable housing developer, to guide the roadmap?
I kind of think, to Cole's point, it is like switching out Cascadia Partners for a developer, and that developer is very actively involved in the entitlement process.
And the community engagement,
Community engagement.
but they're not leading it. We're utilizing.
It's a team.
Yeah, hopefully we can utilize the same contract the city has in place with community builders and vis-a-vis Cascadia Partners to lead that community engagement, develop.
Not have a contract with Cascadia Partners.
But they're a sub of.
Yeah, Cascadia Partners is a sub consultant of.
I know, but as far as to do this project, there has been no,
No, there's no new contract.
there is no new contract.
And also the question is too, is Cascadia, since they've got a broader breadth, would they be the better group on outreach and engagement than community builders? Because as I said, community builders is good with small number, we need to make sure an entire, 6,000 electorate, or, looks at it. So that's the question, go through who is the best at engagement. But I guess, so Scott, I'm envisioning like this developer would then develop it.
Yeah, I mean, you want someone involved at this stage of the project that can put a shovel in the ground.
And
And
that
it's
will-
not a contractor, it's like someone that understands feasibility. So that when you're sitting here and you're having conversations about what type of housing you're gonna do, they're sitting there saying they can do that. Versus being told the community wants something and it's been approved.
And so then my follow-up question for you is, would this developer have an interest in developing the site, or would we be contracting with them specifically to just use their expertise to do this
Yeah.
work?
No, this is like, I think you wanna find someone right now through an RFP process that can develop this deal.
And that's Counselor Barnes' specific feedback.
Yeah.
Do you foresee a developer be willing to spend pre-development dollars without an annexation in place?
Yeah, I think if they have a partnership, absolutely.
Yeah, we had no problem getting that last time. Pre-annexation, but they were in it to put a shovel in the ground. They weren't in it to get you all the way to annexation and then bow out.
That is the same model that we used first time around. It was Michael's organization. They were a master developer.
But it goes back to this concept of during this process, and I do see it in here, and I was glad to see it, the overall framework of the entire product. And I think we're just getting back into phasing. Like, here's the plan for the property. In my mind, scalability and cost effectiveness says annex the whole thing with phases in there. Maybe a developer can help us walk through that. Or if it is, break it into pieces and annex it as you go and create that financial inefficiency because town can't wrap their head around it, fine. But that developer has to kind of at least be at the first iteration of this, be willing to do all those phases, to do soup to nuts, everything. And then maybe the contract itself allows for some kind of disengagement along the way. If it's too big for them, or they get into a place where they're like, we only want to do phase 1 and 2. We have no interest in commercial or whatever, and then we can source that out as we go. But I think we put ourselves at a disadvantage if we don't plan the whole site and identify what phases are in, first, second, tertiary along the line.
I think there's a big question left, and I want to make sure we leave time, and that is the joint meeting.
Yes.
If we can swing back to that, if we can get through that quickly, so.
Well, what's our feedback to the steering committee?
Sam, what exactly do you want from this board today?
I didn't come with any direction. It was just supposed to be an update.
Oh, good.
This is actually perfectly timed because we are at an impasse anyway at the steering committee. So it's really helpful for me to understand, and hopefully Shane and Lou, for you to understand where the board is with this.
Yeah. The key issue here was there was consensus among the people present. Okay, on the steering committee.
Let's be honest, Counselor Barnes is taking his daughter to college. That's why he is not here today, and that's why he wasn't there yesterday. Well, I just want you to understand, and somebody set up a meeting and with not having everybody's calendar available. And that is also a no-no in this kind of steering committee environment where you want a consensus that, so I don't know who set up the meeting or anything else. I know there was pushback about why he wasn't there. But it's not like you make a decision, I don't think, the day before that you're gonna go drive your daughter or take your daughter to college. That's kind of set up. And so that's what happened there, just so.
I'm not saying anything about Dave. We had this discussion yesterday. We've had it earlier today. That it is imperative that everybody is there. So we've Civic Canopy has attempted to create a framework from which we meet, instead of monthly, we're gonna meet bi-weekly and have hour-and-a-half meetings. And the hope is that everybody is accountable. The fact that he wasn't there meant that we could not come to consensus. So that's where we are. And now we have to close the loop. My concern is this could be a recurring problem. And I talked to Kale about it yesterday. We can't have that. It's just not acceptable.
Well, and it just, I will say it's potentially impossible to get everyone in a room. I mean, look around, like we don't have our full board here at any given time. And so the meeting was scheduled using a scheduling poll, and I don't believe that Kale looked at who was there and not there and made the decision that way. It was literally like, what's the time that has the most people available? So it wasn't a personal thing. I just want to make sure that's really clear. I do not know how we move forward at the pace that I think the community expects to deliver housing with this decision-making model where we have to have how many of us are there? 9 people in the room together at the same time. And that everyone agrees on everything and we reach consensus. It's going to be quite nearly impossible to get everyone in the room to meet regularly. So I just have to say that it's been incredibly challenging just like to manage that this summer, and it's getting harder this fall.
Yeah, and I think this rolls into what Kathy said. I guess it's been proposed that we have a city YVHA joint meeting. The topic of that discussion, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is to talk about how we make decisions and how quickly we can make decisions. What kind of delegation is there? I know we've talked about guardrails, but we're getting into more nitty-gritty type stuff.
And there are some potential, I'm not gonna say conflicts, but if when you have people who are involved on different boards and different committees and different this, that, and the other thing, you may decide to support one thing based on this because you have to from a consensus model, even if you don't want to, and then you put in another environment and
That's
still support that. As far as having a joint meeting is concerned, we did have some initial discussions about maybe having a work session together.
Yep.
And I believe we have time available on an upcoming work session. We'll be meeting on Monday to review the agendas, but I believe we may have time to do that as long as we have clarity around exactly what it is we want to accomplish.
Agreed.
Yeah. And Tom was the one that reached out to me after your retreat last month and kind of planted that seed. And I mentioned it in my weekly update to the board. And the thought was essentially trying to get some alignment on, some of these scenarios or some of these concepts. Obviously, any sort of like threshold decision as it relates to finances or, anything that's really super impactful that would still need to come back to our respective bodies. But it was just, I think, an attempt to try to, given what's been commented on here, is this is a very aggressive timeline, a way to potentially kind of work through some of that with our board and the city council to, in recognition that we are operating on a very kind of tight timeline here. November 27 will be here before we know it. So
yeah, and that clarity is really important because you're right on monetary issues. Then we get into, yes, we need to be actively involved in that funding issues or spending issues. Beyond that, though, that's where it's vague and fuzzy, and we need to get clarity around that so that decisions can be made in a timely manner.
I think the other important thing is we need to recognize that this needs, we don't want to, 2027 would be great. 2026 would have been the perfect year, but we don't want to rush something through that isn't going to succeed. So if it's not going to work for 2027, then it's going for presidential year is a big turnout. But I do think just even conceptually, because even like, what Cole and Lou are talking, I'm looking at a very different thing than Michael's organization. Michael's had a master plan. They did not have a specific development plan. And I think, what I heard loud and clear from the community was they want a specific development plan. They don't want some weird drawing that, looks like Tim Corrigan said, some dog, peed on Emerald Mountain. They want specific, this is what the houses are gonna look like. And that's why I think that Scott's, suggestion of having a developer, what I was envisioning is by the time we go to the voters, by the time we go to annexation, it would be like that Green Gray model. Where this is what it's gonna look like, even if it's just a small proof of concept neighborhood. And we work about, doing the rest of the master planning later, just to show the community, this is where the growth goes, it's gonna be awesome. So I think we need to have an open mind on what Scott's saying on getting that specific developer. And maybe they can partner with Cascadia and, community builders work to all three of them together. Just maybe that's an idea.
All right, does anybody have a concern about having a joint meeting with city council, assuming we can find the right date?
Right, there's it's a defined, what we're gonna get done, and, like what Steve said, it needs to be very intentional.
Yeah, the other thing that's come up with that is, having a facilitator or a moderator who can kind of help direct the discussion. And I brought that up with Tom last week. That was some feedback I received. So that's just something else that is out there is, it's great to have a meeting, but someone that can kind of keep that on track and keep us on point and identify what the agenda and the topics are. So it's a productive meeting for us. So
As long as it's not like last time, little cards of color. That was not the use of anyone's.
yeah.
Our next work session is on September 8th. And that's the last work session we have scheduled for the year. I don't know if that date's gonna work or not, so. But we need to do something, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible for us to have some other interactions in order to move this process forward? This is set up to be some sort of an iterative process, not only between board, county, and the city, but also with the community and different elements of it. So there's iterations going back and forth, changing whatever it is we're talking about, and then trying to move forward with something. And I'm not sure, it is a very complex structure. That's all, I'm saying, and we need to simplify it.
It's not only a complex structure, it's also filled with a diversity of opinion.
Oh, yes.
One way, maybe cut through that a little bit is this project is not, it's unique to Steamboat. It's unique to the Housing Authority. This project is not particularly unique, in the United States, right? A lot of examples of similar projects, and we could maybe find 3 other similar projects that have been done and kind of model successful projects and kind of model this off of not unit types, not anything like that, but just the process off of that. It might be able to be accepted by everyone a little bit better. It's like, hey, this community built this. I mean, Breckenridge has done a ton. That's close by. It's like, hey, Breckenridge did this, and this is the process they followed. Follow something similar to that. Just an idea.
We maybe need to set up a separate meeting outside of
I agree.
typical meeting, which is fine. Getting everybody is difficult on those kind of things, so. We may just have to do that because timing is of the essence here.
I agree, and, no one is saying, let's not go fast.
I don't want, as I think Emily said, this a brat process where you don't have agreement.
Right.
You keep going back and forth and, that's not a good model. I'm not sure Fist of 5 is the answer to that one. Certainly you don't want situations where things just get put, when we say put on hold, that upsets me a lot. I say things are on hold, we can't have that happen very often, or else we're gonna windows here of opportunity.
Yeah, and Scott, like what you said, I mean, there's a lot of great examples of development. The hard part is the annexation piece. Because if this land was within the city, we would be, everyone vertical right now. Because even like if you look at the, Cascadia or Community Building, all the examples of community engagement that worked, that was great. None of it required going to the voters. So, and that's, if you're like Pratt, they do a great job. The Key Advantage, same with Aspen, they're building 300 units. It's in the city, and also oftentimes like Breck has their own housing department. They just have money coming in that they can just use without a huge process and just build it. So I think that's where the challenge is. But the one successful annexation we had was Bryn Gray, and that was when the developer brought a neighborhood to the community, and the community had a chance to look at it and said they liked it.
All right, if there are no other comments, I will declare the meeting adjourned.
So.
Thank you very much.
Everyone's.
Thanks.
It was just tough because not everyone was there. And it's so hard to